Hello, my fellow English friends. So I'm gonna do the psychological criticism on the Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. So just a brief overview of what's gonna be happening. So I'm gonna do an overview of the psychological criticism and tell you what it's about and what you do to apply that lens to a certain story or a novel or anything like that. And then I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Edgar Allan Poe. Then I'll summarize the Telltale Heart for you in case you forget. And then I have some basic questions relating to the criticism and the story. That will it'll tell you a little bit about psychological criticism as well. And then I have other stories and examples that you can use this literary lens on. So the psychological criticism is used to analyze text and literature, obviously, and it analyzes the minds and the thoughts of both the author and the characters. So you can relate the psychological behaviors and theories in the text to that of the author, and it expresses the author and the character's desires, personalities, and feelings. So a little bit about Edgar Allan Poe. He was born in 1809 and lived only until 1849. So he was only 40 years old when he died, unfortunately. He was a famous author, editor, and a literary critic. Most of his famous stories and poems contain horror or mystery or just gloomy scenes. He was faced with many, many challenges throughout his life, starting from a young age, and these challenges are displayed throughout his work. Just a summary of The Telltale Heart. So it was written by Edgar Allan Poe in 1843. The narrator in the story at the beginning tries to prove to the reader that he is not a madman and that he is sane and he is a normal person. And he says he's going to do this by telling us how calmly he murdered an old man who had a vulture-like eye. It was said to be a glossy blue eye that haunted him day and night. But then at the end, the guilt causes the man to confess the murder to the police, and he absolutely goes crazy. So the psychology, sorry, of the character. Just this is the question: how does the character's own psychology affect his responses in the text? So in the story, the narrator he continually insists that he is sane, but at the end, he ends up proving the exact opposite and that he is crazy, he's insane, and he's just an absolute madman. And the behavior of this narrator says that the narrator has experienced some event in his life that has affected his mind and his psychology to make him this way. And you can analyze the thoughts and the behaviors of the narrator through the psychological criticism. So another question is, what do the characters' emotional behaviors reveal about their psychological states? So I'm going to focus on the narrator again. The narrator is very, very excited about describing this story, this murder, to the reader. But then as the story progresses, the narrator seems to show no real emotion about the murder and about killing the man. He's continued with his regular life as if he didn't just kill an elderly man just because of his gloomy eye. But then near the ending of the story, the behaviors of the narrator, change, and he begins to feel the guilt and regret his actions that he has done, and he goes crazy and he tells the officers that there's a beating heart the man under the floorboards. He can hear his still beating heart even though the old man is dead. So now I'm going to focus on the psychology of the author. So Edgar Allan Poe, his personal experiences are displayed throughout his work, not only in this story, but also in The Black Cat, for example, or the facts in the case of Mr. Valdemar. They're displayed throughout his work, throughout his poems, his short stories. And this is because he was faced with a lot of emotional trauma and hardships that he went through, like his father leaving his family in 1810, only 1 year after he was born. and then his mother dying in 1811, only 1 year later. And then he was adopted into a foster home by a gentleman named John Allen. And this gentleman gave Edgar the middle name Allen because he pretty much brought him up and taught him everything that he knew. So that's why his name is Edgar Allan Poe. Um, and just the hardships and the emotional trauma that he went through explains why the themes of all of his works are usually dark and gloomy and very mystery-like. Just some other examples of the psychological criticism and what you can use this lens to look at. So, Breaking Bad is a TV show that aired in 2008. I'm sure many of you have seen a couple episodes at least of this show. So, the man with the glasses in the picture, his name is Walter White. He was a chemistry teacher, and the gentleman in the background is named Jesse Pinkman. He was a former student of Walter White. And Walter is diagnosed with cancer, so he wants to start up a meth business so that he'll be able to pay for all of his medical bills, and when he dies, he won't leave his family in copious amounts of debt. So, because they're in the drug business, they frequently kill people and they have to dispose of the bodies. So, you can see kind of where their mind is at in that, and you can see what they're thinking about, what they need to get done. This relates to the psychoanalytical criticism because we're able to analyze the character's state of mind and his psychology. So another story that I'm going to relate this to is Lamb to the Slaughter. So I remember reading this in an English class in high school. I don't remember what grade it was, but it's just a short story written in 1953. And it relates to the plot of The Telltale Heart because both of the characters in the story commit murder. So in Lamb to the Slaughter, the girl's husband, comes home and tells her that he's leaving her and he basically doesn't love her anymore. And so she grabs a frozen lamb chop and hits him over the head with it, and ending up killing him. So she's like, "Oh crap, I need to hide the body." So she hides the body, and then when the police come over, they search the house and can't find anything. So she invites them over for dinner, and she actually feeds them the lamb chop. So both the characters, so the lady in Lamb to the Slaughter and also the narrator in The Telltale Heart, both overreacted in both their situations, which can be attributed to an unconscious conflict. So the narrator in The Telltale Heart had an unconscious, unspoken conflict with the old man, and the lady in Lamb to the Slaughter had an unconscious but also conscious conflict with her husband when he told her he was leaving her. And that's all. Thank you very much for watching.